My mind starts to wander when I'm out here working, and it can go in many different directions. But today I was looking for a reason to get out of sanding this old Chevy truck, and it just occurred to me, a thought, and it had to do with a comment that we had from a viewer about a video several weeks back, and it just struck me. What if, out of curiosity, what if all the vehicles from the olden days, all the classics, they were all electric and they were all self-driving? No fuel smell, no loose gearboxes, no mechanical soul. Would we love them the way we do now, or would they just be another appliance that we get into with function over form? Welcome to American Outdoors. It's 1970. You get up on a Monday morning to get ready for work, you pour yourself some coffee, you make some breakfast. You can hear the garage door opening as your beautiful 1969 Mercury Cougar with a throaty cammed up 302 backs out into the driveway, patiently waiting for you to come out. Oh, wait a minute. There are no internal combustion engines, so that can't happen. Meanwhile, your 1969 Mercury Cougar with the Permanent Magnetic Sychronus motor patiently waits for you in the driveway quietly. Now, instead of sliding in behind the driver's wheel, pushing in the clutch, throwing it into reverse, backing out into the street, that 1969 Mercury Cougar waits for you to click your seatbelt before it backs out into the street, merges seamlessly into traffic. You don't touch a thing. Now, shortly after, you pull up to a stoplight, right next to what appears to be what could have been a 1967 GTO. The driver looks over at you, you look over at him, you both have that familiar grin, you nod your head. Car, rev up. Car, rev up. Car, rev up. Let's race. And it responds, I'm sorry,
Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Now, unless, of course, somebody had installed an aggressive but illegal mapping tune, which would probably get immediately disabled by the manufacturer. What would a Saturday night cruising down at the Strip have been like in such a world? Open headers, guys standing around talking carburetors and gear ratios, girls sticking out the window yelling and screaming. Instead, you've just got an endless stream of quietly passing cars with the windows up. No commotion, no bark in the tires, no dump in the clutch. Where would the fun be when the car has all the control? What about a night at the local drag strip? You go down, you pays your money, you go get a bag of popcorn and a cold drink, and you go sit up in the bleachers while your car pulls up into the staging lane. It accelerates to 100% immediately upon the green light. Same time, 3 different passes, 13.14 seconds. 13.14 seconds, 13.14 seconds. Reaction times are 0.01 every single time. The announcer says, wow, another tie. Well, thanks for coming, folks. We'll see you again next week. Or how about all those times you and your buddies hung out at your friend's house that had that green 68 Chevy too? You had beers in your hands, a timing light and a wrench. One guy had a ball bat rolling back wheel well so he could get those Mickey Thompson N50s to clear. One guy had a job that paid enough to cover the parts and a wife that was patient enough to let it happen. Where would you have been if it wasn't in that garage? Think of all the movies: American Graffiti, Bullet, Fast and the Furious, Smokey and the Bandit, the music, Born to Run, My 409, the swap meets, the car shows, Cars and Coffee, the vacations in the 71 Newport 4-door hardtop with no air conditioning with 4 kids in the back driving across the southwest of Arizona. Memories. And what about all those blue-collar guys, the mechanics, the welders, the fabricators, the speed shop owners, the parts houses? Where would all of those workers have gone? What would they have done? Coding? Now, a common thread that runs through most every social issue, program, even a story like this, is money. And in this case, traffic enforcement. I mean, long before there were cars, I'm sure there were owners getting cited for unruly mules or dangerous ox carts. But writing tickets has been big business for local municipalities forever. Now, back in the 1960s and 70s, even with fewer cars on the road, tickets were being written left and right. Drag racing, speeding, failure to use a signal, merging traffic, running stop signs, bad tag lights, just pick anything. It was a huge boon for local communities. And even adjusted for inflation, in today's dollars, we're talking upwards of $1 billion. Now, besides that money going into local police departments to cover their salaries, their staffing, their cars, all their expenses, many times it also goes into the local revenue fund, and it also goes towards repairing and replacing roads. So we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars every year that would be subtracted from budgets all over the United States. So how would local governments back then have handled such a huge shortfall in their budgets? Well, the obvious answer is they'd handle it just like they do today. They'd raise taxes. They'd raise the old taxes and they'd come up with new taxes to put on top of the old taxes. Autonomous surcharges, license and registration increases, tolls, sales taxes, property taxes, general taxes, public charging station use taxes. And then when the public got tired of hearing the word taxes, they just change it to fees or permits. And when there's no need to monitor the drivers of that 71 CUDA, 67 GTX, old Camaro, or Plymouth Sport Fury, well, traffic enforcement can take up to 40% of a local police department's resources. And if you don't need that anymore, well, that's a big loss of employment. Now, I'm not saying that citations would be eliminated completely. I'm sure that there would be situations where, because of a software malfunction or blocked traffic or actually caused an accident or injury to a human, I think the relationship between the public and the police force as a whole would definitely have improved once the main reason for traffic stops would have disappeared. I think this alternate world would have reshaped budgets and public safety in ways I hadn't really considered until now. So what specific differences would there have been in those roads? Well, I think the roads would have been narrower because there was a less likelihood with an autonomous car that it's going to weave or you're going to have distracted driving. So when you come into large cities like Chicago or Atlanta where there's 6 or 8 lanes, you could probably cut that in half, maybe 3 lanes. You could streamline the cars one right after another since there's little risk of tailgating causing an accident. You could narrow the shoulders so that there are designated areas for pull-offs instead of having people standing by the side of the road at risk of being hit by another car. I think there probably would have been fewer stoplights since those autonomous 340 Dusters could have recognized all the other cars around them. There'd be less stop-and-go logjam style traffic. I think there could have been some dynamic routing systems through a centralized system, aka, I don't know, Skynet, which could have helped avoid some of the problems that we experience today. I think parking lots back then would have been much smaller because the cars could have dropped off their passenger and relocated to whatever was available. I think old trucks like this would have been cruising those country byways with embedded sensors and inductive charging strips in the pavement. And I think back then that you would have had your choice between Highway 101 and Smart Highway 101. We fix these old cars and trucks up and we customize them because it's just a reflection of who we are. It's part of our personality. Every choice we make in a vehicle is a reflection of our personality. And I think with a self-driving car, a lot of that is taken away. And so the personality disappears and everyone arrives at the same time, in the same way, the same manner. I believe with these old cars, it was not just about the transportation. It was about the participation, and it was about the community, and it was about the moment. As a dad, I remember trying to teach my youngest son how to drive a stick and listening to him grind the gears between first and second. As a young man myself, I remember the old guy down the street in our neighborhood underneath the 72 Olds Vista Cruiser station wagon just cussing up a storm as he's trying to change out a starter. I remember that time when I dropped a 327 into my 65 Impala convertible and the pride and the exuberation I felt when I got it to fire up for the first time, and I thought, I can do this. Or the time you're driving into the parking lot of the bank and somebody comes up and says, hey fella, you want to sell that old truck? I think that if things had played out back then the way I just portrayed them, the world would probably be much more efficient, certainly safer. But American pop culture is so intertwined with the vehicle, with the car. I'm not sure what sort of legacy that we would have been leaving behind for future generations. I'm not sure what we would be passing along, what we would share, what sort of relationships we'd all have with each other. I don't know. But that's all I got for today. So if you disagree, be sure and check out some of our other videos. I'm sure I've got something you might agree with. Leave your comments and your questions below. I'll try to answer them all. Anyway, from all of us here at American Outdoors, thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
This concludes our broadcast day. Good night, and God bless America.